So that transaction on 2305 Fairhill was one of the most important transactions of my career. And I don't know if the owners who gave me a shot, thank you, Tarah and Phil, really know what an important time in my career that was. Right when I listed that property was when we made the decision to have Case become an independent brokerage. And we made that decision because of a major breakdown that occurred the day before we went on the market. And what this transaction really taught me, and it reminded me, was that, what do they say? The best way to find yourself is to lose yourself in the service of others. When you're a real estate agent, it does not matter what you have going on in your life. You have to put all that aside and focus on the goal that you have for your client. And I love these guys. Like, I remember being on the listing appointment and Biggie Smalls was playing on Sonos. And I'm like, I've gotta list this property. The other thing was, it was one of the first transactions, this was in 2017, May, that we began to explore how to create and break price records. And there's the new idea that I had been thinking about for a while. I just never really had the shot to implement it. And Fairhill was, I believe, my very first transaction where I went over 100,000 above the list price. And that really taught me that when a certain product has a high level of design aesthetic and it has a craftsmanship about it, you could really break records, and this property had that.
Kevin knocked on our door right after we finished a major renovation to the outside of our home, and complimented us on the work that we had done to the house and asked if we were interested in selling. And at the time, we had no interest in selling, thought that it would be our forever home, and really, had put our heart and soul into renovating it. So thanked him, but said no, we weren't interested in selling. But there were a few things about that interaction that really stood out to me as different. Realtors knocked on our door all the time, but I think what was different about Kevin is he told me that he specialized in mid-century modern homes. I had never really heard of a realtor specializing in a style of architecture. Usually it was, I'm an East Side Costa Mesa specialist, or I sell a lot of homes in this area. And he was really, I think, enamored with the style of our home and the work that we had done. And his flyers and things looked a little bit different. The conversation felt a little bit different. He was young. He introduced himself as the owner of Case, which most of the people who knocked on our doors were part of a team. They were an assistant to the head realtor, but not the actual owner of the company. So just a few things that kind of were different about that interaction.
When I first knocked on 2305 Fairhill, I knew immediately there was something special about this home. I mean, from the house numbers, I was able to kind of peek inside a bit, and I was able to see some of the tile in the kitchen. And I didn't think anything of it because when I met the owner, Tarah, she had no interest in selling. We just had a really cool conversation. But for me, like, I look for two things. I look for awesome property, and I look for awesome people. Even if somebody is never doing anything, I still really enjoy the process of looking at property and talking to cool people. And that was it. And I think it was maybe a year or so later that Tarah kept my information, and she reached out to me and told me that they were interviewing agents.
We did interview 3-4 realtors, and there were things that stood out as distinctly different about Kevin and his approach. And it really lined up best with our goals and our approach and what we thought was going to be the best way to sell our house and for the most money.
And I think the thing that separated Case from the rest of the pack was that we had interviewed some realtors, and they said, well, this is probably the max that you can get for the house. This is like probably realistically where we think it would sell at, and maybe we can get it up to this price. And Kevin was like, hey, I don't know. There's, the sky's the limit. Sometimes, one thing happens and people get into a frenzy and the price goes up, and he didn't have any, the thing that impressed me about him was he didn't have any limitations in his mind about what we could sell the house for, what we could achieve, which I think was just a kind of a polar opposite from particularly one agent who said there's no way you're gonna get more than this.
I got the call that they were giving me the shot. And I remember back then in 2017, consistently being interviewed alongside like 4 or 5 different agents. And I remember one of the reasons why they said they chose me was because I believed in their price. And I think that's one thing that if somebody wants a crazy price, I'm not gonna create false expectations that they can get that. And I was pretty surprised that the other agents that they interviewed didn't seem to think that they could hit a 1.5 because the neighbor across the street had sold for about 1.3. But I think you have to be able to look at the quality and the craftsmanship of a home. Alana and I have bought and invested in a lot of property. We know what it costs to choose certain tile. We know what it costs to properly design a home and to really hire professionals to invest into your home. And I could tell that this home was nowhere close to the level of craftsmanship as the surrounding comps. And I felt very confident that we could hit 1.5. The question was, how are we gonna get there?
You know, I think there was, even in our listing agreement, there were certain things in there, like if we sold at a certain price, I agreed to get a tattoo of Case somewhere.
And essentially what that was is we were okay with, comfortable with, and actually even leaning towards listing our house below what we thought it was worth and what it would sell for, and getting the most potential buyers through the door, because we had put so much time, love, energy into renovating the home. We wanted someone to come through the door and fall in love with that.
And when we began to talk about the best methods to get there, I always believed that the best way to invent a new comp is through competition. And very rarely are you going to create a new comp by pricing above the comp. The strategy is to really price a home comparatively with what's going on in that market so that you catch the attention of the prospective buyers. And if you have multiple buyers and if you have the negotiation strategy with transparency, communicate what the competition looks like, you can properly guide buyers in the right direction and in a way where it's inspiring and it's not annoying and buyers aren't left in the dark, you can lead that price up. Because at the end of the day, I cannot promise a price, but I can absolutely promise a process that we have that's designed to get the highest price possible. And we started on Cinco de Mayo weekend. The quick and skinny about what I was personally dealing with is I was going through a bit of an issue with my company at that time, and the day before our broker preview, I was kicked out of the brokerage. And in about 2 hours, I had to set up shop in a new brokerage. I had to change flyers. I had to change everything. And I had to act like everything was okay. Because again, it's not about what I was personally dealing with. It was about the goal that I committed to for the family. So we kept it going. We got broker preview going. We had multiple offers. And when the bidding started, it did not stop.
And so within a week of having it on the market, we had, I think, 7 or 8 offers. And all of them were at our asking price or above, but then through the negotiating process, we actually landed about
$155,000 over the list price. I think the owner owes me, I think Phil owes me a tattoo for that price. So what's up with that, Phil? This was an amazing experience. Like I said, it taught me the importance of staying focused and not getting caught up in BS drama. And it just goes to show when somebody puts a high level of love into a home, and not just the energy within the family, but the blood, sweat, and tears that they put into designing that home. The new buyer who purchased it, I didn't represent them, but at the closing party, I think their agent was in Hawaii, so I got to be a little bit more involved. There were some serious tears of joy. I cry like at least on a monthly basis because it's emotional. You're handing over keys to the new place where someone's kids are going to learn how to walk. And it just goes to show, when you put that love into your home, it won't go unnoticed.
I think anyone can put a house on the MLS, take some pictures, and then sell a house. But I think I think Kevin did a great job in terms of driving the price up for us. But also, I think at the other end of the transaction, the buyers were thrilled and are thrilled with the house, and everyone had everyone walked away from the transaction, I think, feeling satisfied and feeling that like things, you know, we certainly felt satisfied and really thrilled about how it went, and I think the buyers did too, from what we could tell.
Thank you to Tarah and Phil for trusting in Case to Close. You guys really made a huge impact on my business and my belief in myself by believing in me. So I appreciate you guys, and Phil, you still owe me that tattoo, buddy.